Hello everyone, and welcome to part number 5 of my preview series to the Blood Feud in Transylvania DLC. As we now come to my favorite division of the DLC, Corpul 6 Territorial. A mix of two nations that we haven't seen before, because so far the Soviets always have fought on their own on the Eastern Front, but now they made themselves a new ally. The Romanians have switched side, and this division is representing that, and having a mix of Soviet and Romanian equipments, which we haven't seen before, and which is quite nice. Relatively close to Panchelos when it comes to equipment, though a bit of a different spin on it. And I will bring this thing out into ranked quite a couple of times, I would say, as I'm really looking forward to this. So if you don't want to miss those, consider leaving a subscription, so you see when my ranked videos with this go online once the DLC has dropped. But let's start in the Recon tab, as always, and see why I like this division so much. Starting with the motorbikes, which have a radio, and that's it. They are your classic motorbike with radio. They're the only radio option in the Recon tab. If you want a radio option in your Recon tab, this is your go-to. So that is their selling point. Nothing really else going on here, but hey, radios can be useful. Dozhors are your first implementation of the Soviets in this formation. A few of the options that actually can come in A, coming in gas with gun, and a BA-64 with a gun as well. BA-64 obviously being the armored option here, so maybe my go-to if I would want to get them with something that can shoot. The gas obviously slightly faster with 90 kmh versus the B-64's 80 kmh, so if you want the speed, the gas has you covered there. And Dozhors, in general, just a fine, classic two-man recon squadron. The weapons don't matter too much, but if you want a two-man recon squad where it matters, you have the Lunatists as well. Classic two-man sniper squadron, forced on 2-star veterancy though, and that means the availability is a bit low, but still a really decent squadron. If you want to have a two-man sniper squadron that can easily sneak around and have an eye on the enemy, and then from time to time take a shot, Lunatists are fine. Though you have some other good competitors in this division as well, as we are on the Romanian deck. The Motor Ratchetka ain't that though, as 4-man recon squadrons always underperform, and 3 SVTs don't save that. 20 points, yeah, they're relatively cheap, but Dozhors just give you as much recon for cheaper. And you don't get any good transport options, only the gas here. So this is not really a unit worthwhile bringing in my eyes. You also only get them in B, and you really want something utility-wise for your 4-man recon squadrons to be worthwhile, like a Panzerschreck or something like that. Otherwise they are usually not really bringing, because they're too flimsy to really fight, but they're too expensive because they pay for the extra strength to be worthwhile for just bringing for recon. Calorisi, on the other hand, are bringing that extra, and they're also bringing extra strength. 10 hit points, sniper rifle, and a bit of an AT capability. Plus the rest of the rifles also not too bad. So the Calorisi, really strong unit. Calorisi always bringing in decent availability now as well. 369, good amount of cards in this deck and in all the other Romanian decks coming in this DLC. You get 4 cards, so you can spam quite a couple of rifles once more with Romanian decks here. And the Calorisi, just an absolute banger of a recon squadron. So recommend taking a couple of them, at least 2 cards. You could max out on all 4s if you want to, and it would be a totally fine option as well. But the card that I also would highly recommend is the T-70 Ratchetka. Another implementation of the Soviets in this division, and the T-70 is your only tank in A phase. T-70 Ratchetka comes in with a decent gun, and it also comes in with good veterancy curve. But the most important thing is it's your only tank, and you want to have some tanks, some mobile armor in A phase, and this gives you that. So highly recommend taking that, as your other tanks will come in later, but for the A phase, this has to keep you covered. Infantry, we start with the Granite Cherry, 3 cards of them, and this is one of the reasons why they don't have sniper rifles anymore. Because 3 cards of sniper rifle Granite Cherry would be quite annoying. And OP as well. And also, the other reason is it would be a bit, like, it was historically inaccurate to have these units with the sniper rifles. The Marines had a lot of sniper rifles, and they're still represented with, for example, the Kalarazi, or other units that we will come to later, but it didn't make much sense on these units. So, they lost that. They're now a classic standard 20-point infantry, which is a decent squad. It's not gonna win any records, but it comes with great availability, and it has at least a good rifle with the Mannerlicher 95, which is a straight pullback rifle, meaning a bit extra accuracy, a bit extra damage output compared to, for example, the ZB24, like the classic bolt action rifles that you see on other units. The automatic rifle, decent as well, but nothing to really write home about. The Granitieri Kalari, though, get 3 of those, so they have a lot more firepower on the longer ranges, plus on the shorter ranges because it's an automatic rifle, but they pay with 1 hit point and with a halved availability pattern. So yes, they bring a lot of bang for 20 bucks, but they also are a bit weaker and you get a lot fewer of them. So mixing these out, I would say, is recommended. You don't just want to bring in Granitieri Kalari, as you will run out of infantry relatively quickly. Infanteristi are another option here. They have the worst rifle, but they have a submachine gun and a Panzerfaust. They have slightly lower availability than the Granitieri, but the extra AT and the slightly better firepower and CQC could pay for that. Especially the AT can be quite helpful and quite handy on the battlefield. So another solid 20-point option. Then a 20-point leader to fit with the 20-point scheme we're going on here. And this is also just a fine leader. 4 hit points is a solid amount for a leader. 20 points is relatively cheap. 3, 6, 9 is the classic availability on a leader that you want to aim for. They don't come with any smoke, any AT, or any radio, but for 20 points, this is fine. So, yeah, if you want to have a standard leader, the Lieutenant Infantry has you covered in all phases. And with 6 availability, obviously, yeah, also covered with that. Recruity are another 20-point option that trade out 1 Mannerlicher for SMG, which is a buff, giving you extra firepower and CQC. But they come in with Disheartened. Otherwise, same availability than the Granitieri on lowest veterancy, though you can't upvet them, which is obviously an issue. So, an interesting payoff here to the Granitieri. I don't quite think it's worthwhile. I would rather run with the Granitieri, especially as you can upvet them, and 1 vet is beating out 0 vet quite hard. And Disheartened can be annoying. But another worthwhile consideration here. Meanwhile, the Reservisti, maybe a bit more worthwhile thinking about, as they have the Chow Chat, which is a pretty good automatic rifle. Work in progress on the icon still, as this is still an alpha build. Mannerlicher rifles also here, pretty solid. Yeah, 1 card of these you got with 12, 18, 36 availability at the moment. Decent unit as well. Maybe something to bring in and see to spam out. Chow Chat has move and shoot as well. So, yeah, pretty decent rifle. You compared stats-wise, though. Yeah, nothing super fancy either. Strelki, another 20-point units, but this time Soviet influence, obviously. Better LMG than the other 20-point units, and still solid CQC firepower with the PPSH, and the tank grenade also can be helpful. Availability, though, lower than the Granitieris, and obviously it's AT weaker than the Infanterist. So, yeah, could be a worthwhile to consider, but nothing to write home about. Just your standard Strelki. Same with the Automachiki. Yep, it's your 10 PPSHs unit. Nothing super fancy here, but hey, Soviet units here, and the next Soviet unit will be better. As first, though, we have the Lieutenant Pioneer, another A-phase leader card. You only get them in A-phase. They are 5 points more expensive than the one we saw before. Same availability. You get a smoke and an extra manpower. So, worthwhile considering, as this gives you utility on your leader. And a bit of extra hit points never is better on your leaders either. So, something that you have to consider when trying to take this. Then, Pioneers. You get a lot of cards of these. If you want to spam out classic standard Pioneers, you can do that. MG34s on these, on the Pioneer. Yeah, basically nearly exactly the same as the Germans ones. They have 2 Auritas, so yeah, the damage output on CQC is okay, but TNT is what matters most. Classic TNT squadron availability as well with 5, 10, 15. Yeah, nothing really fancy. Strelky DP is your Soviet unit that I would say can be worthwhile. As for 25 points, 2 DPs is a good damage output. 12 hit points, also always great. Can be nicely mixed in with the more spammable, slightly worse long-range firepower units of the Grind Cherry and Infantry and Recruity. So these I would consider bringing over, for example, the Strelky. Strelky Comrade, also around. Has lower hit points than the Lieutenant Pioneer for the same price and the same utility, but it comes with 1 extra availability in the pattern, with 8 availability in B, so if you want to have a lot of B-phase leaders, the Strelky Comrade has you covered there. Otherwise, maybe not the best leader for its cost efficiency. Calorizimoto are the unit that competes with the Strelky DP in this formation, as the Calorizimoto have taken away the MG42s from the Germans in Bucharest and now use them against their old owners. And the MG42 is an amazing LMG. So you get basically a Panzer Grenadier version here for the Romanians, currently with really good availability, 12, 24. You get 2 cards of these, so that can be pretty nice as well. We'll see if the availability pattern will stay this way. Work in progress build, as I said, but nonetheless, even if it goes down to normal Panzer Grenadier availability, it's still a solid unit. Panzer Grenadiers are decent, and so is this unit. Rita even a bit better than what you get on the Panzer Grenadiers. Obviously no Panzerfaust, only an anti-tank grenade, but still a nice fire support unit for your otherwise relatively push-focused and lightly armored infantry units. Next unit, Lieutenant Calorizimoto. Not a unit I would recommend at all. You pay 5 points extra, and you only get 3 hit points, and the MP44s are the reason why you pay that price, but they don't do anything. Like, 2 MP44s don't do any damage, so yeah, don't take the Calorizimoto leaders. Lieutenant VMs, on the other hand, they cost the same. They lose the smoke, but they get 2 more men, they get a sniper rifle, and a Panzerschreck. This is utility. Sniper rifle plus Panzerschreck is utility on your leader. They can do some damage, and they can hit armored units pretty well. Nice to put into your formation of infantry, so that they have some anti-tank naturally coming in the formation. As the leader also stays a bit behind, the Panzerschreck won't die first. So yeah, Lieutenant VM heavily embraced. Also brings in radio on top. So yeah, Calorizimotos don't do that either. No sense for these to be on 30, but yeah. Currently I would recommend the Lieutenant VM. And then we have another really cool new unit, the Motti. As these are a bit worse than the Calorizimoto when it comes to damage output, as they have MG34 instead of MG42. But in CQC, they get a TNT, plus they have 2 extra men with ZB24s. So a really strong 30-point unit as well. Also currently solid availability with the 8, 9, 18, 24, 27. Solid availability for TNT squadron for sure. So Motti at the moment, a really strong unit. Highly recommend taking them, even if they have anything in availability so might change to them. They still will be a super strong cost efficiency squadron. Plus TNT here is really nice. Only other option is the Pioneer, but this is a squadron I would highly recommend. And then the flamethrower version for this deck is the Pioneer Assault 10-man double flamer with smoke. Great utility, great damage output. Absolutely highly recommended as well. Double flamers always do their job. And the smoke also is nice utility to help out with the rest of your infantry for moving from A to B. So really the last 3 cards up leveling this deck's infantry tab by a good amount, by giving you really some high quality units here. So making this a nice combination of cheap spam and high quality units down here. Absolutely in love with this infantry tab, and I would say it should be one of the stronger ones in the game for sure. Not quite top, but pretty close to it. Tank tab? looks quite decent on the first page as well, even though you don't have a lot of options. Issue of the T-3485, as mentioned earlier, they don't come in A. Soviet reinforcements only start to arrive in B phase in force, and that's coming in with the T-3485 1944 and the commodity version, which is a 1943 model. So this one only having 1750 meter range, these having 2000 meter range, and this is a absolutely lovely tank, pretty good all-rounder, so being stuck with only this is not too bad. Obviously, a bit of a different, more variety, maybe a cheap tank like a T-34 76 or so would be nice, but still, if you would have to ask for only one kind of tank and you would have to choose, T-3485 might be one of the first choices to go for, as they have really good all-rounders. They can do 2000 meter range, they can penetrate most tanks if you get the right engagement or the right numbers, and they're still affordable enough that you can get quite a couple of them onto the battlefield without lacking in other aspects too much. So also numbers here are decent. 6, 4, 2, maybe not the number you want to go for, but yeah, with 4 you still get good amounts and good veterancy. On C-phase even better, 10, 15, 10, 5. Highly recommend taking these. At least 2 cards, maybe 3 cards, if you really want to spam them out in C-phase when the reinforcements come in. You can go for 4 cards as well. The commodity version, I don't know if you really want to take that, as the lower range is a big difference. Also slightly, no, the rest is the same, but yeah. No, 1 less DT, right, slightly less firepower in that regard as well. And the DT is a pretty good MG now as well, so T-34 85 1944 is where it's at in my eyes. Then we come to the support tab, where you get a lot of classic Romanian stuff as well. Also, once more, the beautiful Ford V8 Sedan Commander. Still petition for making this 135, going to its max speed, making this the fastest unit in the game. Please, Fusion, do that. It can't hurt anyone directly, so it won't be involved in any major cheese, but just having this thing racing around would be an amazing thing to look at. Otherwise, you get some military police, some Schwalose. ZB53, pretty worthwhile now. Yes, you pay a bit more now, but the extra range helps out quite a bit. And having the different options here is quite solid. The Schwalose, nice cheap SMG with 100 meter range. And the ZB53, a nice expensive HMG with 30 points, good range, but a bit less damage output, I think, compared, or yeah, like at least when it comes to cost efficiency. Breda AC 47, a solid support gun, as it comes. This is the support version that we also have seen in other Romanian formations. It comes with more HE than AP shells, so it can fire quite a while on enemy infantry. Enemy tanks, though, you run out of ammo relatively quickly, so you want to have a supply truck next to them if you want to use them in the AP role. But still, the 47mm always really solid thanks to its high rate of fire against light armor and against infantry trying to cross. So highly recommend taking this around as well, especially as you can take them in A, and as we have seen, A-phase anti-tank is something you'll struggle with, so this can help out a bit there. Hotchkisses, I'm not a big fan of, the price is just too high. And then a Ford as a supply truck commander and a Soviet M2 commander as well. Relatively standard. Anti-tank, you get 1 card of Regida, which is still really nice. And you get that combined with some of the best of the Soviet guns. SIS-2s and M32s, both in here. SIS-2 coming in a B means that you can take the Regida in A, and you still will be fine, pretty much. SIS-2 gun, also always nice. Mandatory Dakari, Panzerschreck with TNT, really nice to fit it into your squadrons as well, into your infantry push, as yeah, there's a relatively little anti-tank around, so having these in your infantry formations can help a lot of scaring enemy tanks away, and helping out in A phase also to survive against enemy tanks maybe. Normal Panzerschreck is an option as well though, if you want to have the cheaper, maybe more sneaky behind the line Panzerschreck option. Schneider is a solid AT gun though, not the most amazing. when it comes to penetration. No HE or so either, so that's a bit lackluster. Pak 38 is a standard good gun though. Also having APCR shells here, so pretty good all-rounder for relatively cheap buying. And then AA, really solid as well. You have the Hotchkisses, and this is a Hotchkiss dual barrel, so this is really nice. As for 60 points, you get a lot of 25mm DPS here. Somewhat similar to the Vecotine of the finish, I would say, but I think even better range. So this thing absolutely shreds the Hotchkiss ACA Doubler. I can only recommend taking this thing in A, and I would recommend taking it with 1-star veterancy. Availability here, also great. And then Flak 36s can get you covered for the longer ranges, so really solid combination of AA here. These things just really amazing. Enemy low hit point planes get shredded by these within seconds, so highly recommend, especially if you have a leader around. This thing goes absolutely nuts. Artillery, relatively classic. One more Soviet support unit here. Su-76 is coming in with radio. Nice addition to have some self-propelled guns. No off-map in this deck, but other than that, a lot of the classic Romanian stuff. The good 60mm mortars, the radio-operated 75mm guns, which are relatively decent. 100mm guns, also pretty good. And then you have some big old 155mm, which I'm not the biggest fan of, especially as you can get the 150mm, which is pretty good, instead for 5 points more. Yes, it has slightly less damage per hit, but the big thing is here, you get 2 more rounds per minute, and you have smoke shells on the 150mm, which is way better. Also can take these with the Skoda supply trucks, so that is quite helpful as well. These here as well. So yeah, all your artillery can come in with supply trucks if you want to, which makes this a deck where you can artillery spam a bit as well. Air tap, you have some lovely looking planes as well, starting with a Potash Recon. Camouflage, absolutely amazing. Availability, great. 5, 4, 3. Only thing is, currently the price is a bit too high. Should change hopefully till launch, as this thing is not worthwhile 70 points sadly at the moment. But it's a good recon plane in general when it comes to the standard characteristics. 120, pretty fine. Yeah, has a couple of guns to defend itself. Nothing to write home about, but yeah, Potash looking great and nice additional recon. In B-Phase you will get Soviet recon options as well with the IL-2KR, which is a great recon plane, but thing is, you often want your recon early on, and this doesn't come early on, so that's a reason why I wouldn't recommend this plane. Then you get a couple of fighter options, the BF-109 G2, which is really fast, and is a nice hunter with its 20mm. I can recommend this as a plane to chase down enemy bombers. In a dogfight, it's not too great. In a head-on, I can't recommend it at all. But it's a cheap plane that goes fast, and that is nice. So I would take a G2 card in my deck just to hunt down enemy bombers. B-Phase, you get some Yak-1Bs with high veterancy and good availability. But the Yak-1B in general, a mid-level fighter. Really agile, really good for dogfights. Speed though a bit lackluster. And damage output also means no head-ons at all with this thing. So, yeah, I tend to go with the G2 if I want to have only one fighter card in this deck. Potash, nice fight, like attack bomber. 2 200kg bombs on this version with solid availability, 2, 4, 7 on 0 vet. Then Yak-9B bomber, also great fighter bomber. But you usually want these in A-phase as well. Decent availability here too, but these things die really quickly to AA. The Potash at least has medium resilience, also decent speed. Yak-1 is a bit faster, but the bad resilience makes fighter bombers later on harder to use, so I would tend to the Potash. Next Potash version brings 8 50kg bombs. Don't really like that. Same availability. I'd rather take the 2 100kg bombs, especially as they are also cheaper. Speed is the same. Yak-9T then coming in as a fighter with high DPS. This is a good head-on beast, and this thing also can shred heavily armored planes, so a worthwhile consideration here. Next up, Potash, still same speed, with two 200 kilogram bombs, same availability as well. This is maybe worthwhile considering, as two 200 kilogram bombs actually do a significant amount more damage than two 100 kilogram bombs. But most of the time you want to hit anti-tank gun positions or HMGs, and then the 100 kilogram bombs do the job as well for 20 points less, so I still tend to go for the first Potash. If you want to take both cards though, I would take this over the Potash 633 B2 with the 50 kilogram bombs. And then a couple more Soviet units here with an IL-2 with anti-tank rockets, not too amazing. IL-2 with napalm bombers cluster has been buffed a bit, I think, over the years, but still 120 points, not too amazing. Not the highest fan of this. IL-4 with heavy bomb load here. Two 500 kilograms, one 1000 kilogram bomb. So if you want to have big boom, that is your go-to here. Very good resilience, but really slow as well. IL-4 is not the fastest bombers at this stage in the war, but biggest boom here. So if you really want to blow the enemy into smithereens, this is your option here. And if you want to deal with enemy tanks, you also have a cluster bomber, Yak-9B, with great availability for cluster plane, though not the most amazing cluster, and relatively expensive as well, on a plane that gets shredded relatively quickly. But still, if you want to have anti-tank cluster, this is worthwhile taking, though with the anti-tank tab, plus in B phase also the rival of the T-3445, I'm not sure I would take this. So, yeah, in general, a really strong deck. As I said, I will play quite a bit with this. I'm optimistic. I enjoyed it already quite a bit in the test games I played on stream with Lord last Thursday. That was quite a lot of fun. Also played them with Vulcan. So, yeah, thumbs up for this division. Changes might be still coming, but Transylvania, Platfeud and Transylvania DLC really coming together. Might be one of my favorite DLCs of all time, just behind maybe the Italian DLC when it comes to multiplayer divisions. And this division really is my favorite out of the bunch. With that said, I hope to see you all next time. And yeah, let me know down below what you think about Corpul 6 Territorial. Bye bye, and have a nice day.